Hello, friends, and let's get started.
Today was a special day. Ellie was having a corporate party at a country hotel, an event for the company she'd worked for the past few years. Ellie had been fidgeting all morning, trying on different outfits, one dress or the other, adding earrings to the outfit or taking them off. The scent of her perfume wafted through the air, and her coffee cup stood long forgotten on the nightstand outside her bedroom. "Ellie," Jason asked gently, knocking on the ajar door, "have you decided on a dress? You have to leave soon, and I don't want you to be late." From the doorway, he heard his wife mumbling to herself, as if she were saying something to herself in front of the mirror. Finally, she opened the door and looked at her husband with a sigh. "I guess I'll take that black dress. It's not too flashy, but it looks solid. Same dress code as last year, right?" Jason nodded. He knew his wife wanted to look impeccable at these events, and maybe it gave her a sense of confidence that she sometimes lacked. When Ellie was nervous, she had a habit of going through dresses until the last minute. Last night, she seemed to have already mapped out her options, but now she was still hesitating. "Yes," he confirmed, trying to sound soothing. "Your black dress was always a win-win. And the drop earrings your mom gave you for Christmas will work too. And of course, a smile." Ellie smiled back, though it was a strained smile. It was important for her to make a good impression on her colleagues. The company had been working on new projects lately, and she wanted to be visible because promotions were possible. And a corporate party is a place where everyone socializes informally, where you can make the right impression and make business connections. "I know, I just dashed," she paused. "Anyway, it's important to me, and I want to go perfectly." "Of course," Jason said. "It's going to be perfect. You're the best." He walked over to his wife, put his arm around her shoulders, and pulled her a little closer to him. She squeezed her eyes shut, as if dissolved in his embrace for a moment, and a warmer, calmer smile appeared on her face. When she pulled away, the fidgetiness immediately returned. Ellie looked at her watch and gasped. "I have to leave in about 15 minutes. I'll just blow dry a few things," she said, disappearing into the bathroom. Jason gathered the papers she needed from the living room table, organized them in a folder, and put them in her bag. The corporate party, though more or less informal, still meant presentations, briefs, maybe some formal paperwork. Ellie always took a bunch of just-in-case stuff with her. He didn't bother going over exactly what she put in there. He was used to her having a complex system of organization in there. A few minutes later, his wife finally ran out of the bedroom, tall, slender, in a knee-length black dress, with unobtrusive makeup, rather strict but feminine, just what was needed. Her lips were slightly pink, her hair was neatly gathered in the back in an elegant bundle, and a couple of romantic strands were neatly out of it. Drop earrings sparkled like 2 small drops of morning dew. "So how do I look?" She looked at her husband questioningly, as if searching for confirmation of her own irresistibility. "Gorgeous," Jason replied, completely sincere. "You're taking your car, aren't you?" "Yeah, it's more convenient. We'll stay there with our coworkers later. The company paid for the rooms anyway. It's just a shame I have to leave the kids with my parents. They'll be in a good mood, though. Their dad promised to take them to the movies." She looked at her watch again. "Oh, I gotta run." "Thanks, Jay." He helped her out with her bags to the car, kissed her in front of the door, wished her good luck, and waved goodbye as the car pulled away. It was an early haze. The sun was just rising, and its soft light was falling on the hood. The car disappeared around the corner, and Jason stood in the yard for a few seconds, thinking about how quickly life was changing. Not so long ago, it seemed, he and Ellie had been students, going on dates to cheap cafes, laughing about nothing. And now they had a family, 2 children, a home, worries, rare evenings together. But he was happy for his wife. She is growing in her career. She is alive. Her eyes are burning. The whole day passed in a rather ordinary way. Jason took care of business, answered emails, picked up the children from their parents in the evening, entertained them, cooked dinner, and put them to bed. Ally sent occasional short messages. "Everything is fine. Food is good. Reports are lingering. Very fun. Already sang karaoke." And emoticons. He was glad that everything was going according to plan for her. By the time the kids were asleep, it was nearing 9 o'clock at night. Jason was doing the dishes, thinking about tomorrow being a day off, which they could all spend together if Ellie didn't come home too tired from the party. Suddenly, his cell phone vibrated. A new message from his wife had arrived. But as he dried his hands, he saw that the message wasn't from her, but from an unfamiliar number. Opening the text message, Jason noticed the strange wording. "Hi, Ellie's husband. She just won a VIP bracelet to a party at a cool club downtown. Get a picture." Attached was a snapshot of some sort. Jason frowned. First of all, who was writing this? Second, why was he sending a picture? He opened the attachment and saw that the photo had been taken in a conference room. Ellie was standing surrounded by her colleagues, and she was wearing some kind of colored bracelet like the ones they give you at the entrance to clubs. They all look happy, laughing. It was clear from the text that this VIP bracelet she supposedly won in the competition portion of the program. "Hi, Ellie's husband," he read again. Catch the picture. The style of the message was odd, like a familiar person with an informal address. But he didn't know the number. It was probably some co-worker of hers, trying to be funny. As Jason pondered, the phone beeped again, and a new message came through. It was from Ellie. "Hey, I won this bracelet," and everyone was laughing. "They say I have to go to the after party at the club. They've got a deal with the promoters. There's a lounge area, a DJ, everything." Jason took a seat at the table, contemplating what to answer. On the one hand, he didn't like nightclubs, and Ellie wasn't usually a frequent visitor to such places either. On the other hand, it's a corporate movement. Maybe she wants to support her colleagues, not to look like a white sheep. He asked, "You're there with the girls, aren't you? Are you going to drink? Should I take you?" But the reply came back, "Don't worry, it's fine, my friends are coming with me. We'll dance a little, have a drink, and then we'll go home tomorrow. You don't have to go, Jay, it's just for an hour. Kisses." Jason sighed. He wasn't jealous or worried. The trust between him and his wife had always been enough. Rather, he was worried that she'd arrive too late, that she'd be sleep-deprived, that she'd be up all night partying like this. But on the other hand, Ellie was an adult. She knew her limits. He just had to hope everything would be okay. He spent the rest of the evening in front of the TV, occasionally glancing at his phone. There were no more messages. He went to bed at 11, intending to watch an old movie, but fell asleep halfway through, falling asleep to the sound of the dialogue. It was well past midnight when the phone vibrated loudly on the coffee table. Jason woke up, glancing at the clock. 2:30. For a few seconds, he wondered what was going on. His wife usually rarely wrote at night, but perhaps she decided to let him know she was on her way. Turning on the lamp, he reached for the phone, blinking at the unexpected light. An anonymous number popped up on the screen. The same one, it seemed, that had written during the day, "Do you know where your wife is now?" And a picture attached. Jason felt his throat go dry. That kind of wording, "Do you know where your wife is?" It was the kind of wording usually found in cheap thrillers, but not in ordinary family life. With a sinking heart, he touched the screen, opened the picture. The picture showed a semi-dark room, colored lights, a club lounge-like atmosphere. The furniture, low couches, neon glow. And in the center of the photo was the silhouette of a girl who looked a lot like Ellie. She was sitting on some stranger's lap. The man was putting his arms around her waist, and his hands were quite intimate. The quality of the photo left a lot to be desired, but the dress, the hair, everything pointed to Jason's wife. "What the hell?" he whispered, feeling his heart start to pound. Sure, the photo was blurry. Maybe it just looked like her. Maybe it wasn't really her. But the same black outfit and drop earrings were visible in the flashlight. And the neatly styled hair was exactly like Ellie's. Jason would have recognized it from 1,000. The picture had been taken, probably unnoticed, at some point when she'd been engrossed in a dance or something else. "Do you know where your wife is now?" He read again. Suddenly, real anxiety set in. Who was writing this? Why? Could it be some unfortunate provocation or prank? But the picture seemed all too real. Jason quickly typed a message to his wife. "Ellie, where are you? What's going on over there? Is everything okay?" But there was no reply. 5 minutes passed. Jason couldn't sit still. He got up and walked in circles around the living room, trying not to wake the children, who were asleep in their rooms. His heart was pounding. After another 10 minutes, silence. Try to call. No answer. no dial tone. Either the phone was disconnected or she was somewhere she couldn't hear. My mind was racing with thoughts. Maybe she lost her phone and someone is sending him that creepy picture. Maybe it's not what it looks like. Maybe this man is just an acquaintance, a coworker. Why is she on her knees and hugging? But after all, in a club, and alcohol and stupid jokes can be, he tried to find any logical explanation, but he was tormented by a bad feeling. Suddenly, close to 3 in the morning, a message came from her. Hey, it's okay. It's noisy. I didn't hear you call. I'm with the girls. I'll tell you tomorrow, okay? It's okay. Kisses. Not a word about the fact that she might be on her way out. Not a word about the situation in the photo. Jason wanted to text her right away. What the hell? What's going on in there? But he stopped himself in time. He realized that they wouldn't be able to work things out in this format, and that it would be better to talk in person. So he typed a short text. Okay. Be careful. Love you. Instead of an answer, there was silence again. He ventured to call again. The phone wasn't answering. He shook with indignation and terror. It was already 3:30 in the morning, and from fatigue he felt as if the ground was slipping from under his feet. The thought flashed through his mind. We've got to go there, to that club, to find out everything on the spot. But he had no idea which club it was at. He just knew it was a VIP club. Even if he started calling all the clubs in the city, by that time, she could have already left. And the kids were asleep at home. He couldn't leave them unsupervised. Finally, at 4 o'clock in the morning, another message came from Ellie. Ugh, tired. I'll probably go home soon. Don't wait up, go to bed. No explanation. Nothing. Jason felt even sadder because he didn't know what to think anymore. He lay in bed, but there was no sleep in either eye. He mentally replayed the picture, remembering the shape of his wife's shoulders. Her posture was definitely her. But how to make sense of it? Around 5:30 in the morning, he got one last quick text from Ellie. I'm on my way. Call the cab. Good night. She didn't answer the phone. Jason lost track of time as he stared tiredly at the ceiling, feeling a strange tension building up in him, a mixture of anger, fear, frustration, and powerlessness. He waited until dawn. He heard the wind howling outside the window. About an hour later, there was the sound of a car alarm outside their house, and then the front door creaked open. Jason sat on the couch in the semi-darkness of the living room, only one dimmed lamp burning. Ellie tiptoed in, trying not to make any noise. Her appearance was not horrible, but it was obvious she'd spent the night at the club. Her hair was a little disheveled, the skirt of her dress wrinkled, and some odor of alcohol in the air. Her face is tired, but strangely upbeat. Oh, are you awake? She asked, seeing her husband in the semi-darkness. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to wake you. I thought you'd be asleep by now. I couldn't sleep, Jason answered slowly. I thought you said you'd be back early, didn't you? She closed the door, set her bag down by the coat rack, and walked toward him with unsteady steps. Yeah, we were late. The girls insisted the music was great. How was your evening? He looked at her, and everything was boiling inside. But he didn't want to make a scene, at least not yet. Too exhausted from the night, too many questions. Figured they'd talk in the morning. It's okay. The kids are asleep, and I was going to sleep too, but I didn't. Ellie, why don't you go straight to the shower and get some rest? She nodded, uncomfortable under her husband's hard stare, as if she suspected he might be guessing something. Yes, I'm off. Sorry I'm late. And she disappeared into the bathroom. Jason didn't think about going back to sleep. He waited until she was out, back in the bedroom, and decided to take a cold shower himself to dispel the gloomy thoughts. But they didn't dissipate. He kept waiting for morning so he could show her that damn picture and ask her head on, who was that man, and why were you on his lap? Morning came, the sun shining through the curtains. It was about 9 o'clock when the kids were up, making noise, turning on cartoons in the living room. Jason glanced into the bedroom and saw that Ellie was still asleep, her face a reflection of deep exhaustion. He decided to give her another hour. After a while, however, she woke up anyway and, throwing on a robe, went into the kitchen where he'd made coffee. Hi, she said huskily. How did you sleep? Not so good, he answered muffled. I couldn't sleep for a long time. Shall we talk? She sensed an unfamiliar coldness in his voice. She looked at her husband warily. She sat down on a chair and put her palms around the mug. Is something wrong? She asked, Try and speak as softly as possible. Last night, or rather today, I got a text message with a picture. Jason opened his phone, flipped through the gallery, pulled out the picture, and held it out to her. Can you tell me what it means? Ellie glanced at the screen, and her face changed dramatically. She turned pale, pressed her lips together. She was silent for a few moments, then frowned. What's that? It's some kind of cloudy photo. I can't really see anything at all. I can see it. It's a club lounge, some kind of VIP room. There's a woman who looks a lot like you sitting on another man's lap. I got this at 2 in the morning from an anonymous number with a note. Do you know where your wife is right now? Jason spoke softly, but there was a ring of metal in his voice. Ellie looked up at him, lips tightening indignantly. This sounds like some kind of brazen lie or provocation. I told you I was with the girls. Yeah, we went to club with this VIP bracelet, had a few drinks, danced. I have no idea who would send you this. Maybe some envious people. We have a lot of intrigue at work. And what's in the photo? Well, someone caught a good angle. And in the dark, everything can be similar. I don't remember sitting on anyone's lap. Jason stared at her. She mumbled excuses, but there was worry in her eyes. She didn't seem to believe in her own innocence. And her words about darkness and foreshortening sounded helpless. So you're saying it wasn't you? He asked. I don't know. Maybe I could have been accidentally pushed and fell, and someone picked me up? She muttered. I seriously don't remember any scene like that where I was sitting on a stranger's lap, much less someone holding me. Her voice sounded nervous. Jason felt a wave of rage rising in him, but he didn't want to start yelling, especially not in front of the children. He pulled himself together. All right, let's put it aside for now. We have kids, they can hear. We'll talk about it tonight. But I'll tell you right away, I don't believe a word you're saying. It's too obvious. Ellie turned even paler and faltered. Perhaps she realized that the situation was getting out of hand. The day passed tensely. Jason was cold, answering one-word answers. He was preparing himself internally for the conversation tonight. Ellie looked anxious, sitting in the other room most of the time, ostensibly sorting out work stuff on her laptop. The children sensed their parents' tension and were quieter than usual themselves. In the evening, when the kids went to bed, there was an oppressive silence in the house. Jason suggested that Ellie sit down at the kitchen table and talk frankly. She looked upset, but sat down anyway. Look, Jay, she spoke first, try to neutralize the situation. Maybe we're getting ourselves worked up for nothing. Yes, there's that picture, but it's blurry, so who knows what really happened. Please believe me, I was with the girls. Yeah, I may have had a few cocktails. I don't remember everything, but it wasn't anything to embarrass our family. Jason listened with his arms crossed over his chest. Okay, he said finally. Prove it. Give me the names of the friends you were with. Call them. Have them confirm it. Why? She squirmed. I don't want to answer to anyone. Don't you trust me? After what I saw. No, I don't. And that's not all. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small plastic card that looked like a hotel key card. I found it in your bag when I was looking for your work pass. What kind of hotel is this downtown? The corporate retreat was out of town at a hotel in a different chain. Where'd a key card from a downtown hotel come from? Ellie exhaled slowly and snatched the card out of his hands, trying to say something, but it was as if she had no excuse other than an exclamation. You went through my bag? How could you? That's a violation of personal space. Her voice trembled, anger and fear in it. I was looking for your pass, Jason repeated stubbornly. And this is what I found. What is it? She bit her lip and turned away, trying to keep her voice steady. It's maybe some random card a friend might have asked me to hold. I don't remember. What a coincidence, huh? Jason's sarcasm came out of his mouth. A random card from a hotel right downtown. Even so, tell me, why would you or a friend want to get a room in the city if you're having a corporate retreat and it's a paid-for night? I'm not going to debate this with you right now, she snapped. You're acting like I've committed a crime. Maybe it's not a crime, he said sullenly, but it's like cheating. She jumped up with her fist clenched. How dare you say that? I am your wife. I told you nothing happened. Yeah? Then why are some anonymous people sending me pictures of you with another man? Why do you have a key to the city hotel and not to the country hotel where the corporate party was? And why are you lying about girlfriends who apparently weren't around? Jason couldn't stand it either, his resentment and frustration boiling up inside him. If you had a good explanation, we'd have heard it by now. And then she broke down, desperation flashed at her eyes. Sitting back down at the table, Ellie took a deep breath. Okay, I'll tell you. Just let me tell it. Jason nodded, waiting for the denouement. There was still some hope inside him that it wouldn't be as bad as it looked. The guy you saw in that photo is Ryan. He recently joined our company as one of our senior managers. I've mentioned his name a couple times before, so I guess you didn't remember. Yeah, I like him. He's charming, he's smart, he gets a lot of attention. And it just so happened that we ended up at the club together and the girls left early. I stayed behind. She looked at her husband point blank, catching his hard stare. And you sat on his lap, Jason said stiffly. I just had a few drinks. I was feeling kind of euphoric. ID really won that VIP bracelet. And then we were in the lounge, and he was cheering me on. Maybe I was overreacting, but that doesn't mean we were serious. So the hotel key card is also random? He asked. No, she admitted, her eyes downcast. When the party was over, he suggested we go to the hotel. I don't know what came over me. Maybe it was anger at you for being so distant lately. Maybe I was looking for adventure, adrenaline, I don't know. Yeah, we went there. There was silence in the room. Pain like sharp needles pierced Jason. He knew that the scariest thing he could do right now was to ask the direct question, what exactly was there? But he didn't need to ask. The answer was already on her face. Did you sleep with him? He said hoarsely, unable to stand the silence. She swallowed, nervously tugging at the hem of her robe. It was a mistake. I didn't think it would come to this. Ellie could barely hear her own voice. Jay, I swear I regretted it right away. But it happened. There was coldness in his eyes. Inside, devastation, as if everything they'd built together had crumbled in an instant. He saw her trembling lips, but he couldn't say a word. Why? He asked at last. Why did you do it? She covered her face with her hands, then whispered through her tears. I don't want to make excuses, but we've been missing intimacy for so long, Jay. You've been distant yourself, tired and gloomy in the evenings. We've hardly spoken. Yeah, I know that's no excuse, but I felt forgotten, invisible. When Ryan showed up, with all the attention, the compliments dash, her voice trailed off. I'm sorry. Jason felt something important, precious inside him break, as if the glass that had been collected over the years was now shattered. He stood up from the table and said quietly, Enough. I don't want your apology. She cried, trying to look into his eyes. Please don't jump to conclusions. We have a family, children. It was a mistake. I don't want to lose you. I don't want to ruin everything. He listened to her and realized that he could no longer forgive. Treason was not a mistake in the heat of the moment, but a conscious decision to drive together to the hotel, to enter the room. It is impossible to blame everything on a one-time accident. Pack your things, he said quietly. I want you to leave. Ellie odd, looking at him in despair. Please give me a chance. It was one time, I swear. Once or 10 times, it doesn't matter anymore. It happened, and I can't live my life pretending it didn't happen. He couldn't keep his voice down, so he wouldn't wake the kids. Pack your things. She sat with her hands on her knees, as if she was afraid she would fall. She still seemed to hope he'd soften and pretend this was some temporary crisis. But Jason went out into the hallway, brought her suitcase, and set it down beside her. But where am I going in the middle of the night? She whispered. Your parents live 30 minutes from here, he answered with cold determination. You could call them or take a cab. She tried to say something, but there were no words. He watched in silence as she stowed her things with trembling hands. Time seemed to flow like sour milk, every sound louder than usual. When the suitcase was packed, she approached him. I'm leaving, but I can't believe you're giving up so easily like this. That family means nothing to you. I didn't give up, Ellie, he replied. You gave up when you decided to sleep with someone else for the clubbing and the compliments. I don't want revenge or to humiliate you. I just want you to leave. She stood in the doorway, looked at him with tear-stained eyes, whispered, I'm sorry, then turned and walked out. Jason heard her scrambling around on the porch, hailing a cab, and then the headlights flashed in the backyard, and the house fell into a frightening silence. Several weeks passed. The kids, oddly enough, took the situation more calmly than expected. Ellie told them she was going to stay at her grandparents' for the time being, and Jason did his best to fill the day with something positive. Sure, there was plenty of pain inside, but he held on for the sake of the kids. He'd had to tell friends and family that he and Ellie were having a serious crisis, and they'd taken a break. The real reason he didn't want to publicize. In the meantime, Ellie called occasionally, writing long messages trying to explain herself, to bring back the past, to apologize. She swore she'd broken things off with Ryan, that she was willing to go to couples therapy just to save the marriage. But Jason felt like everything was irrevocably broken. His trust had been trampled on for the sake of a fling and some ill-fated VIP bracelet at a party. He remembered those long years when they had been together, how they had rejoiced at the birth of their first child, how they had traveled together before they had children, how they had laughed at jokes that only the two of them could understand. But all of that had been devalued when she disregarded their past promises and decided to seek new experiences on another man's lap. At work, Jason tried to focus on tasks, came home, helped the kids with their homework, and read them bedtime stories. On weekends, they walked in the park, went to the zoo, went to the movies. In the evenings, when the children were already asleep, he had bouts of homesickness. He wandered around the house, where everything reminded him of his wife. Her favorite mug, her books on the shelves, her plaid on the couch. But he knew there was no turning back. Jason realized he could try to forgive, but he didn't believe he could forget. He didn't believe he could ever stop seeing those shots of her pressed tightly against someone else, where her eyes weren't on him, but on someone else. And he didn't want to live with the constant pain of humiliating himself anymore. When Ellie once again suggested a fresh start, he answered calmly, without anger, but very bluntly. What you did was too hard for me. I'm sorry. I can't go back to the way things were before. And I don't want to learn to live with continued mistrust. Maybe we should make it official. She cried and tried to talk him out of it, but he wouldn't budge. He'd already made up his mind. She'd offered to come talk to him in person, but Jason wouldn't let her come back to the house, only to the kids if they wanted to talk to her. It was over for him, so he rethought his life. Was the VIP bracelet to blame, or a long overdue crisis? Either way, her choice was his final frontier. He learned a lesson from what had happened. Never let your dignity and trust be trampled on. More time passed. They were already preparing for divorce. He lived separately, rented a small apartment closer to the office, set up a cozy room for the children when they stayed with him. He put a soft couch in the room, hung a lamp with a warm yellow light to read them stories when they came over for sleepovers. And gradually he began to notice that the pain was fading, a slight bitterness of memories, but not the all-consuming darkness that had been there at first. In time, everyone learned that his marriage to Ellie hadn't worked out. But he did not tell unnecessary details. He preferred to keep his integrity and not to bring the dirt to the public. Yes, friends guessed that it was about infidelity, but he just shrugged his shoulders and joked. We did not agree on the characters. Ellie wrote several times, "I'm sorry, I was stupid. Can we take it all back?" But he knew no. It was too late. Whatever the reason, things had gone too far. Thinking back to that anonymous picture, he felt the faded anger like a squeezed sponge. Nothing left but emptiness. Some nights he saw that picture again. The dim lights of the club, his wife sitting on a stranger's lap, and the anonymous message, "Do you know where your wife is now?" That question set in motion a series of events that dramatically changed their lives. But maybe it was better than living a lie. Now he truly understood what it meant to assert his self-sufficiency, his right not to be betrayed. Never again, he thought. Never let it happen again. And when Ellie sent a new, almost desperate apology message one day, asking for a meeting to close the gestalt, Jason's one-word answer was no. He put on his jacket, walked outside, breathed in the cold air, and thought life begins again, albeit without his wife, but with a sense of inner integrity that he wouldn't let anyone break. His family was destroyed, but he had his own road ahead of him, without lies and betrayal. And he decided that he would become the best father for his children, learn to be happy in his new status. And the past would remain a lesson, no matter how painful it might be in his soul. This is how an ordinary, at first glance, VIP bracelet suddenly became a catalyst that exposed the cracks in the relationship, which may have been accumulating for years. And the story ended with Jason determined to end the marriage and Ellie losing the very stability and love that had started it all. Soon the divorce was finalized, and Jason felt as if the swamped ship had dropped anchor and sailed into the open sea. It was scary, uncertain, but at the same time a sense of freedom and dignity. Ellie continued to write, and he occasionally wrote back, but without emotion. She swore that she still loved him, that she cried all the time at night, but he couldn't give her back what had died that night at the club. In his new place, he had a neat calendar in his kitchen, and each day he ticked off a box, marking a time without breakdowns, without pain. Little by little, the guilt he felt for his children was replaced by a confidence that they would get used to the new format of life and everything would be fine. Once, in the old house, they were going to buy a big drawing board. Now, he bought it for his new apartment. And when the kids came to visit him for the first time, they drew fun pictures there, fairy tale cities, princesses, and knights. Jason smiled as he watched the colored pencils flicker in their little hands. They wouldn't lose their childhood with him. He would do everything he could to make their future happy. And his own future? He saw it in a quiet light. No club VIP bracelets, no drunken nights, no pain of betrayal. He saw it in an honest, albeit lonely, reality. And in the end, it was enough for him to get up every day and move on. The story of the bracelet, the picture, and the question, "Do you know where your wife is now?" was forever imprinted on his mind. But now he felt no hatred or mad grief, only a quiet regret. How a small detail could destroy a whole world. But maybe that world had been hanging on by a thread for a long time. Either way, it had come to an end and Jason was ready to move on, no matter what. And that's where today's story ends. Thank you for watching to the end. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like and comment. We'd love to discuss this story with you. See you in the next video.